Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. It is 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which means we are getting started, and I'm so excited to be here. Hi, everybody. So come in, say hello. Let me know who's here, and let me know where you're watching from. Hi, I'm so excited. We've been planning this for weeks, and now it's time. So come on in, everybody, and tell me in the comments. Hi, Samantha. Hello. Hi, SG. So all of you, let me know where you're watching from. Tammy's here. I see your comments. Awesome. I love that Instagram is working. Melissa's here. Oswald. Hi, Oswald. Randy's here. Hi, Randy. So fun to see new friends, old friends. Catherine's here. So fun. Cool. So tell me where you're watching from. New London, Connecticut. So cool. I love Connecticut so much. Mary's here from Arlington. I'm so glad you're here. Simone is here from San Diego. Angela's here. Yes, it's finally time. Hi, Stacy. I love it. I love all these humans. Beautiful. I'm so excited to get started today. I can't wait. So hi. I want to just give everybody a second to find us and know that we're online and we're going live now. So cool. Thank you so much for being here. I just want to say right off the bat that your time is the most valuable thing that you have. And so the fact that you're spending it here is a total honor. So thanks for sharing this time with me this week. I'm really, really glad that you're here. And I want you to know that you are fully in the right place. You're welcome here. The parts of you that are fierce are welcome here. The parts of you that are broken are welcome here. The parts of you that self-sabotage, the parts of you that are bold, every part of you is welcome here. So thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing this space with me this week. So I want to let you know a couple things. My team is here in the chat, and we've assigned every person on my team to a group of you. So you all have a mentor for this entire week, and these are all people who I go to. These are people on my team who've been with me for a while, who I trust implicitly, and you have them here to support you for a week. So if you want to reach out because you have a question, if you need some coaching around something and you just want to get some support, you can DM them, you can tag them. You've each been assigned a mentor for this week. And so we will continue to post who's assigned to who, but they'll be letting you know, and it was already in the chat. So just so you know, that is there for you. We have some pretty deep work to do this week, and you'll see, like, I wear my heart on my sleeve and I get pretty emotional about this stuff. And it's because the stakes are really high. The stakes are really high. We come to this world and we want so much to be seen. You know why? Because we want to contribute. We want to leave our mark in this world so badly. And every day that goes by that we don't feel like we are in alignment with ourselves, it just doesn't feel great, does it? It doesn't. It's really interesting because they've done this research and they find that the number one regret of the dying is people saying, I didn't live life on my terms. It's really interesting. And recently, Ethan Hawke did a TED Talk. I don't know how many of you saw it, but he talks about his grandmother and how in the last 30 days of her life in the hospital, she wrote sort of an autobiography. And he said it was this 30-page long little, it's not really little. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this woman had the strength to do that. It's amazing. He said in 30 pages, she's lived through 2 world wars. She had kids, grandkids. She's moved to different countries. And he said she spent 5 whole pages of the 30 writing about how one summer, did you see this? She sewed costumes for a theater. And he said he sat and cried because it hit him so deeply that 5 whole pages, 5 out of 30, that was her entire life, she talked about sewing costumes because that's when she felt the most like her, right? So that's all we want. And I don't think it's asking for a lot. I think that your soul really knows the way. And see, here's the thing. we each have different fingerprints. And what's interesting is my kids, they're best friends. I have two daughters and they're not twins, but their best friends are a set of girl twins. And what's amazing is even identical twins have a different fingerprint. So to me, that's a clue that every human being comes to this world with an assignment to make a different imprint. And we kind of know that. And what happens is when we're little, we want the love and approval of other people. And sometimes there's some rejection and some heartbreak. And so we learn how to play by other people's rules and we kind of forget ourselves somewhere along the way. And I gotten to know a lot of you and I gotten to read a lot of your introductions. You're really good people. I was saying to my team, I'm like, these are amazing souls. Like these are mostly women. There's some men in here too. Mostly women who've lived really beautiful lives, who've been self-sacrificing, who showed up, who did their part to make sure everybody else was okay. But we forget ourselves. We forget ourselves. And it's so important that we don't. And it's not important that we don't just because it feels fulfilling to be in alignment, but the world needs you. I believe that the day you were born was the day that God said, this world can't live without you in it. We need you here. We need you here. And as far as like time, we have all these incredible stories that are really like illusions where we say to ourselves, I'm already, 34, I'm 57, I'm 62. I couldn't possibly XYZ. I don't know what that means, but it's not true. The way I look at it, it's sort of like a taxi cab. The light's on or it's off. If the light's on, the cab is available, right? And you can get in. If the light's off, cab's not available. So as long as you are on this planet, you are needed here. And I've had so many incredible people on the podcast, which has been such an incredible gift. And some of you, I think, listen to the show. So yay, thank you for doing that. It's free, so subscribe. Today I interviewed the Property Brothers, which was really fun. That episode will be coming out really soon. But anyway, I interviewed many awesome human beings. And we'll talk a little bit about what I've learned from talking to so many successful people. But one of the awesome people who we had on is a man named Bob Goff, who talks about how amazing it is that when we raise our hand and we decide to be available, opportunity just rains down. And I think that the biggest inherent issue that I see is that people are convinced that they are not needed because they're not enough, because somebody else is better than them. Tony Robbins, Rachel Hollis, Martha Stewart, name any person, Jimmy Choo. There's someone else already doing it. I'm not needed. I'm not nearly as good as Serena Williams. I'm not nearly as good as fill in the blank. This is criminal. And we forget that Picasso didn't start out as Picasso. I don't know when the last time was that you went back and looked, for instance, at Picasso's work, but I spent a semester in college in Spain. And I remember going to the Picasso Museum and walking through the different corridors. And what's amazing is that the first several rooms, there's several rooms dedicated to the first 30 years of his work. And it's nothing like you envision a Picasso. It actually looks like he's imitating Renoir or Monet. And then he kind of finds his way, and he sure did become an original, right? But we don't start out Mozart, right? Even Serena, I mentioned a minute ago, when she started, her sister was crushing it, right? And she's like, oh, no, you don't. Just give me a minute, right? But we are not kind to ourselves. And so we don't actually allow ourselves to be messy and to take action. And so we're going to get into that this week. And my goal this week is to shed some light, is to sort of pull some things. Marie Kondo, right? Her show. She's adorable. She takes everything out of these closets. And sometimes in the beginning, it actually gets messier before it gets tidier. You know what I'm talking about? Who's watched that show? You guys have seen that show. So we're going to pull some things out from in here. And then I'm hoping that we'll start to see some clues we'll start to see some clues. I know that a lot of people get stuck in this quagmire of, I have no idea what I want to do. I believe that I don't know is a limiting belief. And instead of saying, I don't know, I'd like to change that to, there are clues all around me. And so this week, we're going to kind of pull some things out. We're going to look at what's here. We're going to discover some things. And I invite you to trust the process. You're here for 5 days. This is a free workshop. I love giving these, just like my podcast is free and I love doing it. So I'm here for it. And show up. I invite you to show all the way up because maybe, just maybe, there's something here for you. And yes, at the end of this, yes, I have programs and all of that, and I'll absolutely give you guys an opportunity for those of you who want more. But I assure you, because I've done this challenge many times, that if you show up for this 5-day challenge, you'll get so much out of just this 5 days. And that's what it's designed to do. It's not designed so that you're like, oh no, I didn't get what I needed. I have to take these programs. I need her as a coach. I'm available for it. There's going to be some of you who are like, this is my person. I need this person. And that's cool. But we don't even have room for everybody. And that's why we love doing these challenges. And I love seeing if there's something here that we can reveal. Because my real job is helping you know for certain that you've been assigned. You've been assigned and you are needed. And whenever you say, I don't know, I'm not sure, that is actually false humility. It's false humility. Because when you were created, let's go all the way back to the beginning. What were you? That first second, life force. Energy, brilliance, passion, enthusiasm, compassion, love, right? I believe that becoming who we are is really a process of unbecoming everything that's just not you. So I'm hoping that over the course of these 5 days, we're going to shed some stuff that's not serving you anymore, and it's not yours. We're going to get rid of that. So we can come back home to ourselves. Not only am I hoping that we're going to start to get some more clues about what you really came to this world to do, but I want to show you real possibility of how you can build a full career doing what you love. I don't think that's actually asking for so much. It's not like you're saying, hey, God, hey, universe, hey, life force, I want to own the world. I want to, be you're saying, I want to get to do what I love all the time. I don't want to save that for when I'm, retired. I want to get to do that every day. There's a lot of people who get to do that every day. In fact, I'm going to ask you, we're going to do some stuff today, some practices, some homework, some stuff. First question for you today. Can you name a person whose career you'd want to have? Is there anybody you'd want to trade places with? Can you name a person whose career you would love? If you were just being full on, unabashedly honest, whose career would you love? Does anyone want to just throw that in the chat? I'm just curious. And we're going to get into some of that today. Whose career would you love? And you don't have to be embarrassed. Whoever you say is good. You could say Michael Jordan. We're not asking you, are you, how will you? We're saying, whose career would you love? I'd love to see you throw that in the chat. I'm going to give you guys a second to think about it, but let me know. Donna said a Pilates instructor. Randy said Rachel Zoe. Mike Wolf of American Pickers. So fun. The Sculpted Vegan. Awesome. Nutrition coach I admire. Nice. Sarah Jones. Very cool. Cool. Well, I love that you guys are starting to play and to think about this. I want to get super duper clear on what's possible. And I also really want to talk about what's really here. It's interesting. About 4 years ago, I started building my world online, which I really was resistant to for a long time because I'm a very sort of like, wear your heart on your sleeve, like I said, genuine, down to earth person. And I kind of had this story that, like, oh, there's no way I can exist in that world. But look who I get to attract. Like, look at you guys, right? Like, we find our people. Like, we are kind of made of the same cloth, right? It's kind of like when you get off the bus at camp and you're like, oh my God, who's going to be my person? And then you meet those two girls and you're like, you're my people. Oh my God, you're my people. And you kind of stay with them the whole summer. Like, you do find your people. It's kind of a weird story to say, I can't build a business online because online business is equal to what? Something sleazy. I mean, because everyone's online, right? There's 4.5 billion people online a day. That's a big chunk of the world, right? It's almost all, or it's more than half of the world, which means there's really good people online too. And I want to sort of change the paradigm if we can, which is that the work is there. The meaningful work, the work you want to do, the work is there. The room for you is there, right? Just because there's already 6 other vegan bloggers, just because there's 4 yoga teachers online, just because there's already somebody doing an Etsy shop and making jewelry, there is room for you. That's number 1. So the work is there. Getting to do work that's meaningful, purposeful, that's there. The clients are there. The clients are there and the money is there. Yes. And what happens is we listen to other people's stories. Now, did you know that we become the 5 people we spend the most time with? I had James Clear on my podcast. He wrote a book called Atomic Habits. And I said to him, James, now that you've written this book and you've given so many interviews about it, what's the number 1 most important habit? And he said, who you spend time with. Who you spend time with. Now, I had an awesome guy on my podcast named Alex Benayan who wrote a book called The Third Door. And the third door really speaks volumes to what we're talking about because it really is all about seeing a path forward, And so the analogy of the third door is that when you go to a nightclub, there's always the first door, right? There's the line that wraps around the block and everyone's just waiting and waiting and waiting. Then there's the second line for VIP. It's like my last name's Kardashian or I know a guy, right? That, okay. But there's always, always, always a third door. There's that door around the back. Right? There's that door on the side. And so Alex, in his book, The Third Door, he interviewed Steven Spielberg, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Lady Gaga, Maya Angelou, all of these incredible human beings. And he said they all took the third door. They didn't wait in line and they weren't on the VIP list. And they said, let's do this. Let's find another way in. But here's the thing. He said, Kathy, you know the hardest part? He said, it's not finding the third door. He said, that's actually not hard. He said, the hardest part is leaving the line. The hardest part of the journey is leaving that line for the first door. Because that's where all your friends and family are standing. And as we grow up, we don't want to be creating waves. And we want their love, and we want to make sure they feel safe. So we stay. And we get conditioned to believe, don't you dare go out this line. You leave this line, you're done for. And these are people who want to protect you, right? Don't you go out there. You're just going to fall on your face. There's nothing out there. Don't be crazy. Look who thinks that there's someone they're going to leave the line. You can't leave the line. Nobody leaves the line. You want to be a grown-up? You got to sacrifice. You got to pay the price. You got to be practical. Money doesn't grow on trees. You can't have your dream. Who's heard these things, right? It is so hard to leave the line. Which is why being in an environment like this, having a coach, being around human beings who are playing a bigger game, that's good for you. That's really good for you. So I want to try to show you through new lenses what's really possible. And so I had stories of my own. When I first came out to Los Angeles, it's interesting. I just left LA a month ago. I moved back home to where I grew up. I grew up in South Florida. I just moved back home with my kids. But moved out to LA 17 years ago. I was 24. And I wanted to get so far away from here. My parents' divorce was so traumatic. My mom was really barely surviving. She was very suicidal. My dad left for another woman. It was kind of horrible. And really, it was a relief from the marriage because when they were married, there was a lot of violence in my house. And being at home meant feeling scared. It was just sort of the way it was. I was everybody's therapist and peacemaker. I learned to set myself on fire to make sure everybody else was okay. Does anyone relate to this? So when I left home, I couldn't wait to get out of there. And I wanted so badly to be seen because I felt so invisible as a kid that I thought one day I'll move out to LA, and because I love to sing, I'll get to sing and I'll get a record deal, and then everyone will see me. People will see me finally, and I'll get heard. And I came out to LA. I didn't know anybody. And I remember my mom saying, she was so mad at me. She was so angry at me. She's like, who do you think you are to go out there? What are you drinking? What Kool-Aid have you? Nothing's going to happen to you. Nothing. You're going to make a fool of yourself. And I was like, why is this so threatening? And I was like, oh, because she's put her dreams on hold for so long that the fact that I'm going scares the hell out of her. Because what if she's wrong? What if something happens? And so you guys, I went out to LA and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have money. We didn't have anything. I didn't have support, nothing. I didn't know a soul, but I was resourceful. And I want to let you know something, that we tend to take no accountability, and we tend to be victims, and we say, I don't have this resource. Okay, so that's my excuse. That's when we allow these stories to hold us back. But I will tell you, your greatest resource is your own resourcefulness. If God forbid someone needed a kidney, last time I checked, kidneys are not available at every drugstore, but you would find a way. You will find a way to get that kidney. You will find a way to get the money. You will find a way. You will. You will. So our resourcefulness is off the charts. Our resourcefulness is off the charts. In any case, I came out to LA, super resourceful, got a job, got an apartment, got a roommate, worked my day job. And after work, I would just do everything I could to figure out, how am I going to get a record deal? Who would I need to meet? What songs do I need to write? I just like grinding. And you guys, I got a record deal. I got signed to Interscope, and my big claim to fame moment was sitting with Ron Fair, who was my producer, and his engineer, Tal Hertzberg, who passed away, and Lady Gaga was recording Paparazzi. I'm your biggest fan of... I'm like, not happening. This is not happening. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God. And they're like, Kath, what kind of coffee do you want? I'm like, what kind of coffee do I want? I can't even speak. I can't even breathe. Anyway, I wound up being dropped from the label. So that's not the best part of the story, but it really is. I'll tell you what happened. So I get dropped from the label, and I have to go get a day job again after being so close. It was like Wizard of Oz who says, I got nothing, can't help you. And you're like, but I'm so close, but nothing. So I get dropped and I start working day jobs. And I worked in a casting office. I found that job on Craigslist. And then a friend says to me, just work in real estate. Like if you can't do something you love, just make money. And then come in all the stories. Kath, did you really think you get to have like a dream life? That doesn't happen for people like us. Some people get lucky and they get to live a life they love. Everybody else is miserable. Just deal with it. And I was like, all right, I guess this is the moment. I can't say now that like it could happen because I had tried it and actually gotten rejected. So I was like, okay, they're right. So I work at a day job for 2 years, working in Brentwood for this guy who owned a commercial real estate firm. I'm wearing pantsuits every day, like an idiot. Like I just sold my soul for $120,000. That's what he gave me a year. It was a lot of money. And my friends were like, you're crushing it. Look at you. Like you actually have enough money to get sushi. You bought a couch at Anthropologie. You were like crushing it. And I couldn't breathe. And I remember walking into work one day like a zombie. It was my last day. And I went to the bathroom in the office. I was washing my hands and I looked in the mirror and I just broke down. I was like, I don't know where you went, but you're not here. I was not there, you guys. I had my hair blown out. I was wearing a double-breasted suit that I bought at Ann freaking Taylor. I was like, I just don't want to be this person. And I quit my job. And of course, my parents were like, why would you quit a job? We can't give you money. We're struggling. You're going to have to come home. You're going to have to get some job at Applebee's. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, if I can't breathe, I can't do it. And I quit. And by the way, now I teach people to build a side hustle because it's so doable And it's actually better for you to have a job and build a side hustle. We can talk about that later, because your job like becomes the investor then for your dream, and you can put all your extra energy into what you want to build. And I now know sort of what are the ingredients to validate a business, get a proof of concept, get your first 5 customers, start making that first $5,000-$6,000, so that you can then leave without necessarily having to jump, but build a bridge. But I didn't do that then, because I just was like emotionally, I couldn't take it. And I started to ask a new question. And the new question was, is it either Beyonce or bust? Is it I get to do what I love or I'm miserable? Or is there another way? Is there a way for me to do something I love and make money? And this goes back to what's possible, because I had never seen anything other than one extreme or the other. People get lucky and they do this big old thing and they fill up stadiums, or you're nobody. No. Do you know how many people are in between here and Steve Jobs, here and Oprah? There's so many people doing cool things, really cool things. So I started to open my eyes and look for clues. Remember I said before, we get stuck in this, I don't know what I want to do. It's like, it's a limiting belief. Let's look at where are the clues. So I started asking good questions. And Rumi said this, what you seek is seeking you. So I started looking for what's the other possibility. And I read an article a week later. It was in Billboard magazine. And it said so many artists were licensing their songs to film and TV. Shows like Pretty Little Liars at the time, shows like Grey's Anatomy. And I was like, what? You could write songs for TV shows? That's interesting. So I started asking the question, like, how would I do that? Who would I need to meet? What songs would they need? And you guys, I just took one step at a time, put my foot in front of the other, and started to go down that path and put everything I had into it, because I had burned my boats, right? If you want to take the island, you got to burn the boats. There's got to be no way back, right? So I took the island. And I had to pay my rent. There's nowhere to go. So here I am, and I'm writing mediocre songs for TV, like trying to figure out like what they want, and they're okay and whatever. And I start making phone calls, my hands like shaking. This is before like Twitter, this is before like Instagram. And I'm like calling NBC, Lionsgate, Paramount. Hi, can I talk to the music supervisor? Hang up on me. I actually get the person on the phone. I don't know what to say. I'm like, hi, I'm a songwriter. They're like, and I'm like, okay, call you back. Like I was shaking, scared. And I almost gave up and took another job. And then I said, wait a minute, am I going to let this fear stand in between me and my destiny? Hell no. I've done harder things than this. I'm moving forward. And so I kept making those calls, and finally, clicked. And I did my first big license. And it was a song I wrote called We're Good Together. We're good together, we're good together. Look at how we shine when we're side by side. We're good together. I write the song and I license it to Hasbro for a game called Words with Friends. And they gave me $58,000. And I was like bawling my eyes out. I remember when the woman called me to tell me what they were going to pay me, and she was like, does that work for you? And I was like, am I supposed to negotiate? I was like, that's amazing. Yeah, yes. Thank you so much. Bawling my eyes out. And then I went on to license songs for Walmart and Target and Keurig Coffee and Crate and Barrel and Switch to Birth and Pretty Little Liars and all those shows. And it was so fun. And I did that for 10 years because, again, at that point, that was really all I could see. And that felt fine. But that was like the path until knock, knock, other songwriters started saying to me, how do you do that? And I was like, I don't know. And songwriters would ask me, and I was featured in, if you Google it, you'll see like full page articles that it was all about me. It was like, I remember sitting down with the editor at Billboard. He was writing a full page story about me. And I'm like, why is this newsworthy? And he said, note, just keep a note to yourself. Next time someone interviews, don't question that they think it's interesting. And I was like, great, got it. I'm an idiot. Anyway, so other songwriters started asking me, how do you do that? How do you do that? And it was like organic. And I started to feel like maybe I should teach it. In fact, I thought for a long time, who am I to even tell them? Like, I'm not fill in the blank, Christina Perri, Ingrid Michaelson. There were so many better people doing it. But I was like, but I'm available, I guess. I'll start doing it. And I had my first class in my living room in my old house in LA. And I had a workshop for 10 people and I just kind of made it up. And it was really fun. And then I did another one. And then after that, I started to get asked to speak on people's podcasts. This is before I ever had a podcast. And they were like, how did you license your music? And I was like, oh my God, here's what I did. And blah, blah, blah. And here's what I learned about ads versus TV. And here's how actually I got through. Here's the kind of emails you write if you want people to respond. Don't make it about you. Be really personable. Be really casual. Make it short and sweet, brief and brilliant. I had like all this stuff I realized I had learned about the business side and the creative side and nurturing the client. And really, I also realized something huge, which a lot of artists struggled with. And I realized, and you could write this down, I realized that the reason it worked is because business is radical empathy. I realized that so often I would be on the phone with somebody at Disney Soundtracks or Lionsgate or NBC, and they would say, thank you for asking what we need. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, all these other artists, first of all, they don't really reach out the way you do, but all they do is send me their music, and they want me to do something with their music. Like, here's my music, do something with it. And you take this approach of like, what stories are you telling? What's the show about this season? What are the characters going through? She's like, and you're trying to help me figure out how to solve my problem. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. And she's like, but that's why it's working. Because then I say, oh, Kath, can you read the script? We have 2 sisters in this episode, and we need a song about being there for someone. And I'm like, great, I'll be right there, right on top of that, Rose. And I would go write the song. So I realized the empathy piece. And I realized that the difference between a hobby and a business, and this is another good thing to write down, is that if it's a business, it is about other people. It is about other people, because a hobby means I can just be in my room, I can paint, I can draw, I can write music. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks. If it's a business, it means somebody's paying me, which means somebody is taking their money, right? Which is value. That's how money is a story we made up. We put value on paper, $10 of value, $20 of value, right? But it's value, and it's the way we exchange something that's valuable to us for something that we want or need. So it is about other people if it's a business. And so at the heart of successful business, there's a lot of empathy. Like if you think of the best businesses in the world right now, whether it's Apple, Coca-Cola, Nike, they spend all their time thinking about us, what we wear, what we eat, what we need. Every commercial is about, it's not tone deaf, right? It's about this moment, what we're going through. And they want to know the music we're listening to. So that's in sync, right? So they get it. They really get who we are. Why is it that Amazon crushes all the other stores combined? Because they're constantly looking at your data, what you're watching, what you're looking at. Oh, then they might like this product. Like it's all about the empathy. That's actually awesome. That's awesome. So in any case, I started being on people's podcasts until I got a message from a girl who said, I heard you on a podcast. You should do an online course to teach songwriters how to make a living. And I was like, an online course? I'm an artist. I'm a maker. I'm not some like sleazy online. And I was like, but she's asking me for the information. I'll just do it. And so over the course of this week, we're going to talk about what's possible, what is really possible. Like I said, courses, memberships, products, service-based business, literally anything you want to do, you can do that in a more meaningful, intimate way online. I'm going to show you how to do it. So my foray into it was 4 years ago. I'm pregnant with my 3rd daughter, and it was hot as heck. It was like July. And I knew my daughter's birthday is next week, September 7th. So I was like, all right, I got 2 months. That's a good deadline. Let's just do it messy. Let's just do it. I didn't know the first thing about a webinar. Didn't create one single slide. Couldn't have even if I tried. Not my thing. Just decided to do a free 1-hour masterclass for songwriters on how the heck you could maybe make a living with music, because I'd been doing it. And I was scared, and I felt like, who am I to do this? But I was like, I'll just show up and be myself. There was about 1,040 people on the free thing, the webinar. And I just shared my heart like this, but with a pregnant belly. And at the end, I said, I'm offering a program, and here it is. And it's $997. I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of made up that price, and 147 people bought it. And that night I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. And then something even cooler happened, which is the people in my class, not all of them, but a bunch of them started having major breakthroughs. And I remember John Kleinbell reaching out to me saying, Kath, I just got a song in a coffee commercial and I'm going to Europe. And he was crying and I was crying. And he's like, I made $52,000 and I wouldn't have done that without you. And I've never considered myself someone who really could make a living as an artist. And I think a lot of creatives believe that real artists, they starve. But it's not true, you guys. It's not true. Michelangelo died with like $50 million, and that's before we add inflation, right? Like this story about like I can be a good person and be poor, or I can have money and be a sellout. No, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. See, you can be snobby on either side. You can be snobby and be poor and think like I'm better than everyone else because I don't need money and I don't have money and money's for gross people. Or you could have money and be snobby and be like really greedy with your money or think that you're better because you're super insecure. Or you can have an abundance mindset and you can say, I have money and this money is a resource. It's like oxygen. It's like, would you want less oxygen? Would you want less water? And you get to be a custodian of this, right? And it's awesome. And people say money doesn't buy happiness. I think that's all it does, because money itself, who needs it? It's just a piece of paper, but it affords you freedom to spend your life doing the things you want to do, doing the work you want to do, being with the people you want to be with, putting money. How many times have you gone to a building and you see somebody's name on the bottom of it? A school, a hospital. That's awesome. We can do things like that. We can have a legacy, right? And we can give other people permission that it's not mutually exclusive. You can have money and you can be a really nice person too. In fact, right now, can you think of somebody you know who has no money who's really nice? I can. I can think of a family where both husband and wife are teachers and they have 6 kids. They have very little money and they're super generous and really happy. And I can think of people who are really wealthy and super down to earth. I can think of 2 families right now that come to mind who are so kind, from Chicago, just salt of the earth. And I can think of people who have no money who are nasty. I can think of a few of those. And I can think of people who have money who are nasty. So it's not about the money, it's the person. The money just magnifies what the person already is, okay? So I started this online business and I loved it. And I did it my way. I just showed up, right? There was nothing, I'm not into fancy funnels. I'm not into the copy. I'm just into the intimacy. I'm just into the connection. And I want to show you how to do that because you don't need anything but you to do that. I want you to know we live in an empathy deficit. We live in a time where there is an empathy deficit. So if you get to show up and you show up in somebody's life and you really make space, that's already a lot. And it speaks volumes. But in order to do that, you have to have compassion for yourself. You have to be willing to be messy. I want you to do something for me right now. I want you to write yourself a permission slip. And I want you to keep this by your side for the rest of this week. And I want you to think of yourself right now at 7. And those of you who've been with me before, you know I love to do this because this is something I do all the time. I did this today when I was interviewing the Property Brothers 30 minutes before I started to get nervous. And I was like, let's go back to seeing myself as a 7-year-old kid. Let's give her some compassion. Let's take this pressure off. She's got to prove herself. She's got to be. How about she's already good enough, right? So think of yourself at 7. Can you think of a picture of yourself, or is there a picture you've seen on your mom's fridge or some photo album? Picture yourself at 7. Picture, what are you wearing? I could picture myself. I looked a lot like Punky Brewster, and that was like the best compliment in the world when people would say that. And I had like 2 missing teeth. So I can picture myself with this little, I remember this outfit I had with red sleeves and like blue patches. I want you to just think of yourself for a second at 7, and I want you to see her. And I want you to notice when you picture her in your mind's eye, how obvious it is that she's lovable. And how easy it is to see that she's like got this goodness that's almost like magnetic. Do you see that? She's got goodness for days and she's magnetic. And she doesn't have to prove herself, does she? She doesn't have to earn it. She could just show up, right? So I want to give her a chance to drive the car. I feel like for the last however old we are, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we just shame her. And we're constantly criticizing her. You're not enough. Who do you think you are? And so we don't take action because we're constantly saying, why would you take action? You're just going to fail. And that has to stop. In fact, the thing that I believe that all the successful people I know have in common is the courage to be messy, the courage to be mediocre, the courage to iterate. I mean, you look at Elon Musk, right? This guy is creating so much. He's like moving us into the future. And he knows he's going to fail. And it's like, it's okay. He's going to tolerate that. Because in order to achieve something, we have to be willing to iterate, right? And we have to see failure, instead of seeing it as failure, we see it as feedback. Like, oh, that's so great. That's what's not working. Oh, that's cool. That's an answer key. Oh, it's not rejection. It's just some redirection. Oh, that's good, right? So I want you to think of yourself as that 7-year-old. And we're going to give you homework every day, just so you know. At the end of my live, we'll then post in the Facebook group the homework. And it'll be really short and simple, but I'd love for you to do it, because an object in motion stays in motion, an object at rest stays at rest. And I'd like for you to really get something out of this. So I want you to do the homework. And just to give you extra incentive, when you come back tomorrow, those of you who do the homework, I will be giving you really cool prizes. Like you might get an Aviator Nation hoodie or cool Beats headphones or an awesome gift card to Amazon. And then as we keep going through the 5 days, I'll also be giving away scholarships to my program too, just to mix it up. So I highly recommend you do your homework. So part of what I'm saying now will be in the homework, but I want you to get a photo of yourself. And I'd like to see those photos. I'd like you to post those in the group later on for the homework. But for now, I want you to write a letter to yourself, right? So, dear Tracy, dear Kathy, dear James, I want you to take out a pen and paper. Dear Kathy, write your name. Dear, I give you permission to be messy. I give you permission to play. I give you permission to not know all the answers. I give you permission to make things. I give you permission to be a C student. And then sign your name. It's really powerful. I'll tell you something. When Julia Cameron was on my podcast, she wrote a book called The Artist's Way. Have you guys ever read this book? I love this book. And she actually wrote that book for her ex-husband, whose name is Martin Scorsese, because he was going to give up on being a filmmaker. He had made a film that was destroyed by the critics. This is a long time ago. And he was going to give up. And she said, you cannot give up. You can't. And she wrote this book for him. It's a beautiful book. It's all about like recovering your creativity. And I said to her, why are people stuck? And she said, have you ever been to a preschool? I said, yeah, I have 3 kids, of course. And she said, have you ever seen a kid who's not messy? Have you ever seen a 4-year-old who's not creative? Have you ever seen a 4-year-old who doesn't love to get their hands dirty in the paint, in the Play-Doh, who's got sand in their nose, paint in their hair? I said, no. She said, right. She said, we're all creative. It's our natural birthright. However, by the age of 8 or 9, somebody breaks your heart. Somebody criticizes you. Somebody criticizes your mother. Somebody dies. Somebody walks out. Your heart breaks in 11 million pieces, and you come up with a brilliant solution. And the solution is, oh, I know what I'll do. I won't be messy. I won't dream, because then I won't get hurt. So if I don't reach my arms out, if I'm not vulnerable, I'll be protected. Except that doesn't work either, does it? So we stop dreaming, as opposed to just unleashing and letting go of the shame. It's okay if someone doesn't like it. I have news for you. There are people who already don't like all of us, right? There are people who don't like Italian food. There's people who don't like Seinfeld. There's people who don't like strawberries. Who cares? It's like you could be a strawberry. I don't like strawberries. What? It doesn't matter. It's ridiculous. It's not relevant, right? What I realized, you guys, is that even with my podcast, right, we're coming up now on 20 million downloads. Even if you rounded to the nearest millionth, the vast majority of the world has never heard of me, doesn't want to know who I am. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We overestimate what's needed for us to get to do our work in this world, and we underestimate how much we can actually accomplish with a small group of people who we can serve. And so I wound up growing that songwriting business. I loved it, and I just kept iterating, did it messy. Then I created another version of that program, and I had the courage to raise the price. And then I started a podcast. And oh my God, I almost didn't even put the podcast out. The second episode, I sat in my closet, re-recorded it 8 times, and I was like, I cannot put this out. I can't stand how I sound. You ever felt that way? You're like, oh my God, I just sound horrible. And I called Emma, who at the time we had just met, and she was going to help me edit it. I said, I'm not doing it anymore. I can't even talk. I've recorded this one stupid episode 8 times. I hate myself. I hate the way I sound. And she's like, all right, why don't you sleep on it before you decide not to do it? And I woke up the next day and I was like, I have to do it. I feel like at every moment in our life, there's an edge. Like this is the edge, right? This is the breakthrough. And I don't think it matters what the outcome is. It's that there are things we know we have to do. A text we have to send, a song we have to write, something we have to make. And that's our job. What happens with it is not our business. That's up to God. That's up to the universe. But we have work we have to do. And I knew I had to make that show. It was just going to eat me from the inside out. So I decided the only way I can create this show is if I allow it to be what it is. It's going to be messy. I'm not going to overanalyze it. And just put it out there. And I was like cringing, and people found it. And more people told more people. We've never run an ad for the podcast. And the podcast is huge. And we're not even on one of those networks like Wondery or Podcast One, or we're just like a little team of really cool women who come together. And at first it was just me, and then it was me and Emma, and then we added Angela and Delana, and it's been an amazing ride. And we all have the courage to just keep saying, what's next? Where's that edge, right? But it's turned into something more epic than I could ever imagine. And I've been able to build a multi-7-figure business. I was able to see my husband retire, which is really amazing because he slept on the floor growing up. His dad died when he was a kid. He took the bus till he was about 22. And his dad died so young. His dad died when he was a young man. So I said, it's kind of like somebody upstairs figured this out so that you could actually have a life, because he had to grow up really fast. And I was like, and now you actually get some time. And maybe you get to actually use your time to figure out what you really want to do. So I've been encouraging him to do his dream projects, but it's been amazing. It's amazing to get to not only to see that kind of abundance when I literally had nothing as a kid, but it's to be able to give other people permission, right? And that's the thing, is you don't realize that your self-realization is the greatest thing you give the world, because you start giving other people permission to see a new possibility, right? So I want you to know that there's so much here, right? No matter what you do, right? If you realize that what you love to do is teach yoga, oh my gosh, do you have any idea what you can do with that on Zoom? But how to really create intimacy. If you are a professional organizer, do you have any idea how you can create service-based packages and create content and actually grow a big audience around that and start to create a membership? I mean, there's so much here. One of our students from our past made to do this program, she started doing these date nights, and her and her husband would have these those bar trivia questions, and they would teach people how to mix drinks, and it was $27, for a couple. And if you think about it, by the time you have 30 couples in the world, I'm not talking 3,000, 300,000, it's $810. I'll do the math for you. So if you do that twice a week, 2 hours a week of something they decided to make up, by the end of the month, you're looking at close to $6,400 a month. And this is what every time I turn around, that's like the Punky Brewster, every time I turn around. But every time I turn around, somebody in one of our programs is building a business, doing something they love and getting paid, and it doesn't feel like a job. And it doesn't matter what you want to do. There's a way to do it smarter. It's the difference between working hard and working smart. So there is a huge audience online. Everybody's doing this all day, right? So through the rest of this week, we're going to talk about how do you build an audience? How do you create an offer? How do you create a podcast that actually you can monetize? How do you create an online course? What are the ways to sell that program? What do people buy? What is sales? We're going to be digging into all of that this week. So I hope that you're here for it. It's going to be really fun. I want to do a little exercise with you right now. So continuing on from this whole idea about permission to just be messy. I want you to take a pen and paper and I want you to write, Jennifer, yes, I was talking about you. I want you to take out a pen and paper and I want you to finish this sentence 10 times. If I didn't have to be perfect, I would. If I didn't have to be perfect, I would. I want you to write this down 10 times. Just start to dream. If you didn't have to be perfect, if I didn't have to be perfect, I would start a blog. If I didn't have to be perfect, I would make my own vegan cupcakes. If I didn't have to be perfect, I would gather women together and create a networking space. If I didn't have to be perfect, I would do decorative painting. Like my friend Jennifer Allwood, who started a business doing decorative painting in people's homes, then had enough business that she started hiring other painters. Then they had enough business that was going bananas. She started a membership where people who like to do DIY crafts would pay her to be part of this Facebook group, and she would bring in different guest expert teachers once a month, and she wound up having a few hundred people in there paying her like $50 a month, and she's like, turns around, she's like, oh my God, I'm making thousands of dollars a month just curating a membership. And then it grew and grew and grew. There's no end. There's no end. People love to spend money, you guys. That's not the problem. The buyers are there, the clients are there. So we have to create the audience. And marketing is really just communication. It's saying, this is what I do. This is the problem I solve, right? But it goes back to this permission, because until we can fully stand in our own skin and say, I belong here, see that 7-year-old kid and just be like, let's do this thing. You have some magic to give. If we're not visible, people can't pay us, right? And so my friend Susie Moore, who I just got to see 2 days ago because she's in Florida too, she says, if you don't have the courage to sell, you'll work for someone who does. And we're going to talk a lot about that this week. How to sell in a way that feels really good. But it really comes down to what we talked about before, this imposter syndrome, leaving the line. Who is she to think she's all that to sell a thing? It's like when Daniel Pink was on my podcast, he said, if you have something to offer the world, whether it's a t-shirt or cleaning services or a product, or you're going to sell mindfulness classes, he said, you have a moral obligation. We come to this world to make an imprint, to make it better for other people. And nobody's bothered when Target has a sale, right? Like, we're used to being sold to, but we need to understand, what is Target? What is the Apple folk? What are they doing before they just put the iPhone out? There's a relationship being built. They're building trust. They're building credibility. They're building authority. They're creating content. And so it's not just coming out of the blue like, hi, you want to buy this? Want to buy this? It's not how we sell things. We actually don't ever have to sell when we know how to create connection, because business is relationships. It's not numbers, and it's intimacy. So we're going to talk a lot about that this week. So what did you write down? I'd love to hear some of what you wrote down. If I didn't have to be perfect, I would what? Paint ceramics, open an Etsy shop. Tara said I'd write a book. What else? I'd shut down for 10 years. I'm doing an online yoga class now. That's awesome, Nancy. If I didn't have perfect, I would start a business helping kids with school projects. Yes, boy, is that needed right now. Wow. So good. I love it. So we are going to continue to dig into this. I want to quickly teach you one really great word, which is called ikigai. It's a Japanese word. And this word is the intersection of 3 points: what you love to do, what you're great at, and what the world wants. Okay? So it's interesting. I was talking to the Property Brothers just today. I was interviewing Andrew, Drew, and Jonathan. And Drew says to me, Kathy, he says, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be an actor, but it never worked out. I'd go on auditions and I get rejected. And so he said, I let go of it. I let go of it. And then I got into real estate, and I still liked being on camera. And I had this idea that was like a little network in Canada. I would like send them a little tape of me and Jonathan on camera. Anyway, long story short, they took a chance. It wound up being the right move, right? The network did really well with them, and they grew this huge platform. But the point is, we had this conversation about, we think we know what it has to look like, right? And then sometimes we get led to where the world really needs us, right? Like if he would have gotten success as an actor, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing on HGTV, designing these houses and having all these other shows on all these networks, which by the way, I love those shows. They're so like calming to me. When I was going through fertility treatment at my fertility doctor's office, they would just play Property Brothers shows. And I was like obsessed with these shows. Like it's so awesome. It's interesting. There's a transformation at the end. He wouldn't have done any of that. He would have had to play somebody else, right? So same thing with me. Like if the record deal would have taken off and I would have gotten to be Colby Calais, Taylor Swift, touring the world, I never would have been led to doing this. Like God said, no. It's like the game of hot and cold. He was like, no, not quite. No, warmer. And then I did the podcast. It was like, ding, 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 do this. This is your job. This is where the world needs you. So instead of being so caught up in like, this is how the story has to go, it's kind of like that Ikigai is really cool because it's those three pieces. What do I love to do? What am I great at? And where does the world want or need me? What does the world need? Because like I said, it's about the radical empathy piece. And so we're going to keep digging into this week. But a lot of times what you're meant to do can come from either the thing you just love doing, that low-hanging fruit as a kid. I loved playing cello. I loved basketball. I loved cooking, but like I could never do it as a job. Yeah, we can figure that out. We can figure out a way for you to do something with food. Yes, we can figure out a way for you to do something with music. Or sometimes it comes from your pain. A lot of times our pain turns into purpose. A lot of times the very thing that we struggled with is the thing that we can really do well. Like you have to have been in a well to help somebody out of a well. If I'm going to get you home, I need to know your address, right? So your audience, the people you're going to serve are really you. They're just like you. So maybe take out a pen and paper and see like, what problem have you overcome in your life? Was it postpartum depression? Was it food stuff? Was it this ability to be messy, right? Was it just finding a new solution to eco-friendly, I don't know, filtered water? I don't know what it is. My friend Jenny just won Shark Tank because she's a vegan. She's in it for the animals. She loves animals. And she started messing around with different kinds of like vegan meat. And she made a vegan corned beef. And within 1 calendar year, she messed around with the recipe in her kitchen. In the same year, 10 months later, she's on Shark Tank, did a deal with Mark Cuban. Now all over Veggie Grill, Quiznos. I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar business from the I want to help the animals, right? That's a problem she wanted to solve. She never thought she'd be in the food business. Like, I'm just saying, what's in there? What's in there? And some of you may have come to this challenge and been like, I know exactly what I want to do. But I have a feeling that we leave a lot on the table because there's probably 6 things that we all can be doing. I think that we're each very, very creative, and maybe it's worth just playing around and looking at this. What do you love to do? What problem have you already overcome? Maybe there's something in there. Your pain turns into purpose quite often. So we're going to go through this week, and I'm going to give you some homework. Are you having fun yet? How are you guys doing? Are you having a good time? So there's so much to get into, but I want to make sure that we keep this to an hour every time we meet because I don't want you to be flooded and overwhelmed. But I had such a good time. The time just flies by. And And we're going to come back and we're going to keep building. We're going to keep building on this. And you're going to see homework posted. So I want to remind you, when you see the homework posted, the way that you do your homework is you put the answer in the comments of that homework thread. You'll see us posted in the Facebook group, and then you'll answer in the comments your homework. You'll put your homework answers in there. If you do the homework, you'll be put into the raffle for the prizes, and we'll be giving away prizes tomorrow on the call. We'll pick a few of you who do the homework, probably 3 of you, and we'll give you some prizes. It'll be really, really fun. Also, want to remind you that you have coaches in this group right now. The mentors are here. These are my girls who I adore, and they are here and they are available for this week for you for free. So you've each been assigned a different person, and I highly recommend, if there's something that came up today, if there's something you were wrestling with or something you're excited about or a question you have, hopefully we're going to get to it. We have 5 whole days. Remember, it's not an hour. We have 5 whole days together here, which is 5 different hours. But maybe they can answer that question for you. So look and see who is your mentor so you can reach out. Thank you for all these beautiful things you're saying right now. You make me feel so good. I love doing this work with you. So we're going to dive in to different business models. I'm going to teach you some stuff. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how do you build an audience online, because no matter what you want to sell, whether it's memberships or courses or products, your Etsy shop, anything, you need humans to sell it to. So we're going to dive into tomorrow, how do we really build an audience that's not just numbers, but engagement? How do we build deep connection? Because you'd be surprised. I know people who make 7 figures, 6 and 7 figures with like a couple thousand people in their audience. And I know people who have 100, I know people who have 100,000 people in their audience and make very little money from it, because there's a lot that goes into it. And it's not about vanity metrics. It's about real connection and really clearly knowing what your offer is and really building a runway so that people trust you and know you, and you don't ever have to really sell, because you show up in their life and you give a lot of value away for free, and it's very clear what you do. So we're going to talk a lot about that tomorrow, building an audience. I'll give you some real strategies, so come with pen and paper. I'll give you some stuff to do, and then we're going to talk through the rest of the week on some different business models, because I feel it's like there's a whole buffet. This is how I feel. I feel like there's a whole buffet sitting right there, and you guys are sitting over here eating crumbs, and it's like right here. I want to leave you with this, which is that there's a line in the Talmud that says that the first question God asks you when you get to heaven is to answer for all the beautiful, pleasurable, joyful, magnificent things in this world that you didn't allow yourself to taste. And I see it. I see it every single day. All of the friends that I now have around me are deep, good human beings who make an impact and make multi-7 figures and do it online, and they don't have to leave their house. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we all got this memo before COVID, right? So it's sustainable. We don't have to worry, right? It's happening nonstop. And I want to invite you and teach you how to do it as much as I can over the next week. Are you guys excited? Are you with me? Who's excited? I'm excited. All right. Well, I love you guys. We're going to post the homework, and I can't wait to see your homework responses. And I will be back tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we are going to talk about building a robust, deep, connected audience online. And then from there, we're going to start talking about the different offers you can make and how that really looks, and how to create those offers, sell those offers, and how to do those from a place of real meaning and impact. And we're going to continue to just stick together for a week. Thank you for being with me. You guys are the best. And I love it. And I hope you have a beautiful evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.